Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. First things first, hi Didi, hi Gabo. I hope you guys are doing well. Please leave a comment on this video and tell me how you're doing. Tell me what you're reading. Tell me what games you've been enjoying. Tell me what food you've been enjoying. Tell me anything, but I want you to tell me something about your lives. For those of you who don't know, I have two nieces, Didi and Gabo, and they watch this channel. And they've become like my new motivation for posting. And so I would love to make this a community of reading and makeup and fun, and just to show these two girls that the world is like a wonderful place. All right, so today we're reading the book Transcendent by Laverne Cox. I friggin' loved this book. I loved this book so much. I've always loved Laverne Cox. Since I saw her on Orange is the New Black as Sophia Bursett, I was instantly interested in who she was and her story. I also watched her documentary Disclosure. Didi and Gabo, that's homework for you guys. Watch the documentary Disclosure, where she analyzes the history of trans representation on TV and film. And so all in all, I find Laverne Cox to be she's sensitive, she's smart, she's elegant. And those are really the defining qualities that got me interested in her in the first place. When I saw that she wrote a book, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm there. Realizing I came to this book with two main questions, or two main thoughts, or the desire to learn about two main things. First was her relationship to femininity, and the second was how she persevered during hard times when her dream wasn't necessarily coming true. So we're going to start with femininity. She was severely bullied for being feminine. I mean, throughout her childhood into her teenhood, harassment, streets, people yelling really negative words at her, people physically hurting her. She really did go through a lot of bullying as a child. Now, when I read the scenes of her being bullied and her being called sissy, what I think is ironic about those moments is that, in a weird way, her bullies saw first what she did not see, which is that she is a woman. And her feminist was shining so bright through the body she was assigned at birth. Now, I'm not trying to say that bullying is ever okay or it's justifiable. What I am saying is it's ironic that that's how femme she was. And she talks about, there's this fan that she finds, and she loves the fan, and she's fanning herself, and she's in her fantasy world imagining herself as this, beautiful, breathtaking woman. And one of her teachers sees her fanning herself, and her teacher takes her to another principal and says, do that fan thing. And she does it again, and she's having a good time because she doesn't understand what's happening. And then at that moment, those teachers call in her mother and say, you need to get this child into therapy before she wears a dress and she's homeless in New Orleans. And the teacher said that because her sibling was a freak who wore a dress in New Orleans and was homeless. And from that moment is when the transphobia that we're all instilled with, that's when that first seed was planted in Laverne, where her first image of a trans person is a homeless man on the streets. Now, I was interested in reading this book because I was curious about, I know I haven't had very good representations of what it means to be transgender, and maybe I should stop here and explain. So, transgender, for anyone who doesn't know, is when someone is born one gender at birth and through their life experiences realize that they identify more closely with a different gender, and they transition from one gender to another. I was curious about the exact way that Laverne comes to figure out that she's a woman, because I literally don't know what it's like to be born into a body that I feel is not supposed to be mine. And she literally describes puberty as violence. But the moment like something shifted for her was when she met a trans woman named Ginger. So her first time having a positive experience with a trans person is when she meets a trans woman named Ginger. And here's what she says about that encounter. Ginger was over 6 feet with heels. She was striking, but not quite pretty, per se. Even though her layers of makeup, the bad skin on her face was difficult to ignore, as was her chipped tooth. But the energy Ginger emanated from within made her beautiful. And so it's this interaction with a trans woman that completely changes Laverne's idea of who trans people are and what it can be. I am not a trans woman, and I want to respect the very unique experiences that Laverne has been through to discover who her true self is. And at the same time, I could see myself in her story. You know, at the beginning of chapter 10 for Transitions, she writes, I was laying down my weapons, waving the white flag, surrendering to the part of myself who wanted to live. And that was the feminine part of herself. I could relate to that because, again, it's not the same. It's not the same what she went through, and what femininity is for me isn't the same. But I could relate to it because for a long time I had internalized the idea that femininity was silly or frivolous or a waste of money. You know, all you do is sit around and put on your makeup and wear impractical shoes and stuff. And because of that, I denied myself like a feminized form of expressing myself. I mean, I'm not hyper feminine, but like the makeup, you know, paying attention to my hair. I denied myself those kinds of things because I thought that people would literally think that I am vapid if I have a full face of makeup on. I was afraid that if I presented as too feminine, people wouldn't take me seriously. And I think that what I call femme shame, I think is something that underpins some of Laverne's experiences, right? She was made fun of for being a sissy, for being femme. So there's a lot of shame associated with feminine things like makeup and hair and clothes and the preoccupation with nails and all of these things. And so to read how at war she was with herself, to let that part of her shine through, I could kind of relate to that. And I think ultimately that this moment, or how she writes about femininity, kind of reminds me of what I love about books so much, that I can pick up a memoir by a Black trans woman from Mobile and see myself in her story, you know? And that's why I'm just so excited for her even like writing this book. The second part of this book that I really enjoyed was the part about chasing dreams. So Laverne writes about living in New York for 20 years before she actually got a reoccurring role. 20 years before she finally achieved her dream. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but for me, that's like super inspiring. As you guys know, I left my PhD program, and that's been really difficult for me. And to read about someone else dreaming of something for 20 years and pursuing it relentlessly right now just feels super inspiring. I have no idea what my big dream is. I don't know what the big goal is. I don't have that yet. But reading Laverne having a big dream and her having a big goal, I don't know, it's fed my soul, you know? So if you have any suggestions of like books that are about chasing dreams or achieving dreams, please put them in the comments down below. I really would love to read more on that theme. So this quote comes from a moment where she was, as she describes, at the end of her rope. She reflects on Leslie Jones's trajectory to becoming a successful comedian. But when she was down at her rope's end, when she was out of desperation and had nothing to lean on but the knowledge that she was talented, that was when her light was able to shine through. And when I read that, for me, at the place that I'm at, that feels aspirational, right? I like the idea that one day I will find what my next dream is, and then I'll pursue that dream, and then I'll be stuck in that same limbo of like, I know what I want, but I'm not there yet. I know it sounds kind of weird to say, but for me, I think maybe that is my dream right now, to find something that I love enough to put my whole heart into and to pursue with everything. But that was my review of Laverne Cox's Transcendent. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does feel good to see notifications from you guys.